That salt's still there. Damn it.
Yeah, you've had that the whole time. Hello. Good morning.
Salt.
You need to stay strapped with the salt, ready to go whenever.
Yeah, it's always ready to go, man.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Don't know if anyone's here, but pleasure to see you all as always. What we thinking today? Oh, how's it been, Chris? How's the week gone?
I mean, it's been one of my slower weeks on eBay, so that's been a challenge. And then on top of that, Carbu was rained off all weekend, pretty much. So I think it was Saturday. I went to free on Sunday, but because it had been raining all morning, and then there was I think it finished at like 4 a.m. like the rain, so a lot of people just didn't go. So I had 3 car boots on Sunday, but I think I ended up with like maybe 10 pieces, nothing special. It was very mediocre. The third one I went to, I think there was 6 cars. Luckily, they were all within like a 20-minute radius of where I live, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But yeah, it's been a tough sourcing at the moment, and I was talking about this the other day actually. But I'm finding Vinted really difficult at the moment. Even though I cheat, like I'm cheating, I'm finding it difficult still because I can't remember who I was talking to about, but they said the same thing, which is like the change of season. People are putting up coats, people are putting up dresses, and then there's like a weird little mix, and you're trying to get the things that make sense, and it's kind of like all over the place. And also, I don't know whether it's just me, but I have found it very difficult with men's clothing sniping on Vinted. It's been so difficult, and it's not I'm losing out. It's just nothing seems to come up. Like nothing. Maybe I need to improve my filters and maybe go through my my search filters with my stuff again. But I've been really struggling with the men's section. So sourcing this week's been tough. Selling this week's been tough. It's just been an all round tough week, to be honest with you.
That's fun.
In terms of like the eBay business, we had a phenomenal week on the reseller group and the boot camp and stuff, and I really enjoyed that, and that was really good fun. But yeah, just from eBay side, it's been tough. Vinted, however, in terms of sales, is starting to pick up after my ban, and me adding more and more stuff. It's really starting to get into its own now. And just because I'm going to talk for ages, and just on top of that, I've changed my time of listing on Vinted. So I used to list on Vinted the same time I list on eBay, which is 7 a.m. right? Okay. And now I don't list on Vinted until like 6 to 8, like in that sort of range. And I'm seeing way more conversion of sales like within the first hour or two than I was when I was listing at like 7 a.m. Because when I was listing at 7 a.m., like they kind of like some people might be on, you might get some interaction, and then it kind of dips off through the day, right? And then by the evening, most of your stuff has been pushed so far down that it's difficult to gain any traction. But when I'm throwing it up in the evening, I'm waking up to sales, I'm getting instant sales, offers, etc., etc. So yeah, that's really been doing. And as I've said before, I'm trying to up my Vinted game a little bit. So
about time,
in terms of selling, at least, and being.
It's super interesting that you come off your like probably your best week ever, right, into like what was maybe one of your worst weeks. I wonder why that. Like I don't like you don't change anything, and I don't know. I think some other people were talking about as well that they'd had no sales days and stuff like that that was low, and again off the back of such a good week for a lot of people is really strange. Yeah. Clearly, everyone got really hyped. It was the new season, and then the hype died off. And yes, Andy, it's us again.
So I think last week I did 3. So basically, I get a payout on a Tuesday morning, like most people. I do it weekly, right?
Some people do it daily a lot.
I'll do that. So I do mine weekly, and I believe it goes out Tuesday morning every week, right? And I play a little game. I think you do the same thing, right? Which is when the payout goes out, you look at how much the payout is, and you compare it to last week, right? And you just constantly compare it, right? So that's what I do. So I think last week was like 3.8. I think my payout was maybe 3.9. And this week, I believe we're on 2.2. Like it's been tough, and obviously we've still got all today.
You're talking that against like your best week ever, you know, like so obviously it's never going to look good. For example, if I go back, I was doing like, for example, if I go back to like when there was no fees, right? In last year at this time of year, I was getting like 3K payouts some weeks. And then obviously as soon as fees come back in, it's like, oh, that's cut by like 30%.
My average is around 2.4 to 2.6. Like usually it's around the 2.5 to maybe 2.5 to 2.8. Like it's kind of in that sort of region normally.
Mine's quite variable. You're about double me at the moment, so you're about double me at the moment. To be fair, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't really know what my average is. It's like probably around 1,500 to probably around the 1,500 mark.
Obviously, right? That's after fees, etc., right? So they take all that stuff out now before they put it into the sort of thing. So obviously it's after fees and stuff. Because I think last week it ended up being like 5K, I think, or something like that. But in general, yeah, it's been a really weird one. And this is something that actually, this is one of the reasons why I posted on Instagram my 90-day total from 2 years ago versus now. And one of the reasons for that was this week I got a £200 day, right? And I went, oh my God, like I have fell off. Like this is fucked, right? But actually, £200 days to a lot of people is a decent day. And I know I've not had one for a long time, but I know people have no sales days and stuff like that. And when you go on Instagram and you really look at the masses, like a lot of people aren't getting the £1,000 days. A lot of people are getting the.
Of course not.
No. So it made me realize, I was like, oh shit, yeah, like £200 is fine. It's fine. It's not obviously to the standard that I'm expecting at the moment because I'm trying to hit the 500 to 600 every day. But actually, 200 quid is like blessed for like it's absolutely fine.
Mine's only like probably like 300 something, and when I get, I think everyone has their own thing that they judge themselves by, right? Like it all depends on how your store scales. Like when I originally started out, anything towards £100 day was fantastic. Like it was the greatest day ever. And then that slowly grows as you grow, right? So like you judge your business by different metrics. As you go. But interesting. It's interesting to see that. And again, I think it adds some good perspective that like it's 2 years ago versus now is crazy. And I think even still, you probably got, that's not including Vinted and everything like that.
Oh yeah, 2 years ago I wasn't doing Vinted at all, whereas now, like over the last like 2 years, I've been more heavily involved in it. Still,
you have been on Vinted for a while and not doing it properly. As I've said before, and I'll say again, still big Vinted convert. Really great platform. My only annoyance at the moment is again managing the two platforms, and I think I'm gonna have to switch how I do it because Vendu. I realized I was like, obviously it's nice to see what is listed on both, right? So if I go to Vendu, right, and cross list, I can see that it's listed on Vendu. I can see that it's listed on eBay. Then like that's great, but I can't. The auto delist is not auto delisting, right? And you only auto delist when I'm active on my computer. So it's like, what's the difference between auto delisting, like making sure everything is auto delisted, and me just manually canceling everything when I go to do my orders every day? It makes no difference. It pisses me off. And it stopped right now because Vendu is broken. It's like inhibiting me from doing what I want to do. Because also when it comes to delisting and relisting on both platforms, I have to make sure they stay connected. So I can't really do that properly either because it's not working, and it all just annoying me. I'm like, I might as well just handle each platform individually, and every time there's a sale on either platform, I just go in and
So because I'm banned on Vinted, my app on my phone doesn't do anything, right? It's just there doing nothing, so I can't access the right thing. So when a sale comes through on Vinted, and it's not even on my phone anymore, it's on the wife's, she has to tell me that I've sold something on Vinted so that I can, or she'll go in and manually take it off eBay, and then vice versa. But we still struggle with when something sells on eBay, because if you get 15 to 20 sales a day, like you think to yourself like, oh, I'll be more on it because I'm getting more sales, so I'll be more like visual, like seeing the sales, and then I'll go and take them off Vinted. But actually, it just doesn't happen. So what tends to happen is that, and what was really interesting is yesterday we sold a Polo Ralph Lauren Miami t-shirt on Vinted. For, I think I put it up at like 45 and somebody offered 35. She accepted, and somebody did the same thing on eBay and I accepted. So she had to cancel it on Vinted because it sold on eBay, even though I was going to get less money because I still get the fees. And I still
get that as well. But it's an absolute nightmare because I
happen very often on the same day for the same item, but when it does, it's really annoying.
I re-uploaded a mint velvet sweater vest, right? And I uploaded to Vinted. It sells in a day. And then because it's the weekend, I don't do my parcels. And then actually, no, I think it's same day that it sells on Vinted, right? So I cancel it on Vinted. I'm like, whatever. And then the woman then comes and buys it again on Vinted. And I'm like, how have you just done this? Like, what? And I look, and she then sends me a message saying, really disappointed in the cancellation because you've upped your trying to get more for it, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I go to it and I look at it, and she's like, it's like, oh, she just bought it for 90. So I sold it for like $17.99, and I sold it for 9, and then I sold it for 19. And I was like, what's happening? Turns out there was actually a duplicate listing that Vinted hadn't
but they hadn't picked it up. Oh shit.
And it was from 3 months ago, the other one. And I then had to explain to this lady that I was not trying to scam her, and that I had actually just already sold the item, so I didn't actually have it in the first place. And the listing that she just bought was from 3 months ago, and I wasn't trying to upload it again. And then I was like, hey, because I obviously canceled the first one. I was like, would you mind canceling the second one? She was like, no. I was like, fair enough. So I had to cancel the second one again, and it was a bit of a disaster. But yeah, I think it's interesting because cross-listing the other way is annoying. Like again, that's the one thing that Vendu is good at. Every cross-listing platform seems to delist from Vinted easily. So like it will recognize an eBay sale and delist it from Vinted, but the other way around it struggles with. And it's just annoying me at the moment. But even though the convenience of delisting the other way is very useful, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like I have to do it manually and then just keep manage it. And I know a lot of people do. So it's like, why not?
I have to do it manually because I fresh account zip sale every month. So once you've done the first month, so you get unlimited for the first month, right? When you use a code, and you get unlimited uploads and whatever. And whilst for the first month, it will auto delist and relist like sometimes. But once you're done with that, and then you make a new account on zip sale and you get your free month again. You actually can't. It won't go back to the old ones on the old account. It'll only do the new ones again. So every time I've gotten to the point now where I just go, all right, if it sells, I have to just go and manually remove it because otherwise I know it's going to be a duplicate because a lot of the time I do it all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, also just commit to something in your life, you know. If don't stop trying to skim
I've been using Zipsale. I've been using Zipsale for over 12 months. How much did you pay for Zipsale for a whole year?
I don't know.
So I've saved that. Like I've probably saved like £300 to £400.
Just commit.
I don't need to commit to it. And I've always said this, and I maintain it, and I will say it with chest. Zipsale will get my money when it's not shit. It's so just the best shit.
Something else then.
Oh, I'm going to be very soon when a new platform comes out. We'll wait for that to come out though.
Okay. Ominous. What else has been happening? Obviously, so we've had boot camp.
Yes.
Boot camp last week. It was great. Like Kaylee did an amazing job in terms of putting it all together, having the people come in. We had a load of new people come in. To be honest with you, I think there was like 30 something, and all kind of came and participated in boot camp for the week. Each day with a new topic, kind of just like it was, and people loved it. Like towards the end, there was loads of nice messages. Everyone was having a great time. I always love going over stuff like that. I love going back to like the fundamentals of reselling, stuff like that, and I love the discussions around it as well. But it was good. I don't think realistically all the people that came in generally had a pretty good time. It was probably orientated towards like the fundamentals rather than anything else. But I think it was amazing. And yeah, I think we'll definitely do one again in the future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it was meant to be this, but it was more of like a beginner sort of like refresh, sort of like the fundamentals, as you say. So maybe further down the line, if we do another one, we could do maybe like a slightly more advanced version for pushing people in that direction, or at least trying to give some people some insight for that. And I think that would be a really cool concept as well. And as you said, we had lots and lots of really good feedback, which was nice.
I think Katie's been inundated with messages telling her how great she is, which again,
yeah, I mean, let's not go too far, all right? You know, let's not make her feel her ego any bigger. But you know, it was definitely good. Yes. And obviously, she spent a lot of the time with the prep and stuff. Like, obviously, she personally put all of it together, pretty much. So yeah, like it was a good job on her behalf for sure.
I mean, I did a presentation midweek, and
I mean,
she put the presentation together for it. So
she built the presentation. You just said words, Benji.
yeah, well, I mean, mine would have been too ugly. So that's
facts.
She was in charge. And Nick, Zipsell now have a banner saying you can't relist on Vinted or you could get banned.
I think that's a precautionary assessment, because obviously there's been a lot of scaremongering around the relisting thing. So obviously, as a platform, they've got to do what they can to protect. So even the person that runs the sniping tool that I use, they've basically said none of that will affect, but I have to say, be careful, like regardless, based on all of this. So I think a lot of the time, places like this will just throw the message up there, knowing that they have to protect themselves in a scenario. Because as a seller, if I turn around to Zipsell and go, "You got my account banned because you've been uploading," like, do you know what I mean? So I think they have to kind of try to protect themselves the best they can. So
I mean, is that just so? Obviously, it says, Nick, you said relist. Is that including cross listing, or is that just like the same items uploading again? Like you're talking delist, relist type thing? Because that make I wonder that I don't know if that makes a difference. But obviously, again, Vendu's had issues. Other things have had issues. The weird thing with Vendu is that the desktop doesn't work. You can't do anything on desktop, and the Vinted kind of side of it's broken. But on the mobile, everything's fine, and you can still do everything. I have no idea how it works. Don't know the science of the coding here. But they go, and just relisting.
To be fair, Vinted has been like a little bit all over the place recently, because Accelerator has had issues with like certain things recently. My purchasing software has had some issues recently. Zipsell has had issues, and obviously Vendu's had issues. So I think Vinted are doing stuff, but again, in terms of the terms and conditions, they've been there for 2 years, so they're not changing it. They might be trying to pinpoint it more and maybe putting a little bit more effort into it, but nothing's actually really changed.
I know. I have to go to the Vinted call on Tuesday to discuss.
To find out more, yeah.
Because that's interesting if it's just that side of things. And obviously they are getting a little bit harder on it, and they've made some changes that we need to catch up on. But yeah, either way, I'm sure it will sort itself out. They've not find another way to do things. Oh, in terms of the title of this is kind of based like this is something I've thought previously, but it's kind of something I've been running into a decent bit recently. So obviously I've spent my time recently trying to sort some, again, new stuff out. And originally it started with like one thing and chasing people down, and kind of then I realized, hey, I don't have the best system set up to do this. So then I tried to chase systems, and doing that, I basically came to the conclusion I needed to sort a delivery thing. And I needed to sort some custom packaging, which is always fun. And I ran into, so for example, when I was looking at custom packaging, I basically went to talk to all these companies, and their minimum for the custom packaging that I wanted, their minimum order quantity was 10,000, and I was like, no. I even overshot it to start with, to be fair. I said I'll take 5,000. And they're like, hey, yeah, we don't do this for any less than 10,000. And then also with the postage solution I was trying to sort, they were talking to me about minimum orders that I needed. And because it was not outbound postage, it was like a separate bit of postage. They had like a minimum order of 1,000, which if I was doing my normal postage would have been fine. But based on like being a kind of a different branch of the company, I wasn't sure. But even then, the figures and how they allow it to work is completely different based on how much you get, what your order quantity is, right? And all of this kind of just got me thinking about how there's like a big gap between the resellers that do it how we do it, generally speaking, in terms of, you know, the standard types of doing it, that you're a bit more smaller scale, solo to a couple of people, using like traditional methods to get stock in and run a business that way, and even to a very successful level, like a very decent level, right? But the gap then between them and the big boys is massive. And there's like I'm not even sure how you like. You're not saying this isn't again by any means me saying it's not possible, but the gap is really big, and I'm in terms of access to things, you have to get to like a certain size to play the game.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you bridge the gap between doing really well at what we're doing and then getting to play the big boys game? Because I feel like there's a lot of barriers to entry that you have to get through, and this goes for everything, right? So obviously, I've run into it with stupid things like postage and packaging and whatever. But then there's the sourcing side of it, right? And you right? What's happening?
I'm not sure. I thought it was you.
I just rubbed my hands.
I don't know. I don't know if you did something that confused me. I had moved, so I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was like there's a big gap, and I feel like I don't know how long you have to play the game for to be able to play the big game.
Yeah, because there was somebody that we previously knew, right, that was trying to do some sourcing in like a bigger scale, and they basically turned around to him and was like, "Oh yeah, you can do this, but the minimum order is like 100 grand."
Yeah,
and it's like how long have you got to be playing, and how do you bridge the gap between what we're doing and doing that, right? Like that's one of the most difficult things I think in this game is to get to that level. Like how do you, and maybe it's a mentality thing, maybe it, because obviously like from my perspective, right, I want to pick up things, hand pick them, and I want to take the most profit possible, right? Whereas there's some people that might wholesale some stuff and do it on a 1,000 times the size of me scale and make more money, but obviously grind it out and get like a little bit less profit each time. Like, is that what you've got to do to keep pushing and pushing and pushing? You see a lot of these whatnotters that'll pay like £20 for a pair of shoes or some clothing, sell it for like 35, 30 on whatnot, but they're doing it like 5 times a week.
Yeah,
like, is that the way to do it to get the cash moving? I like it's really good.
Maybe it's just a patience game, right? Because you can get to that big buying scale, but you've got to, like the same way we have with this, right? It probably just feels like it's going to take a lot longer. But when you start this, you start with a very small amount, like you're capable to buy, because you're starting with what, like say 50 quid or 100 quid, right? And that allows you to buy a few things. And then that when you get more money, and it allows you to buy a few things more. And then when you get more money, it allows you to buy a few things more. But I think getting to that size feels very, very daunting. I also feel like it requires what are you doing?
I was just writing a note, sorry. I was writing
notes. I also feel like it requires you to be very good at saving your money.
Yes.
Right. So I think a big thing that happens is when you feel like every time you increase earnings, you increase lifestyle. A lot of time, for example, you can run a very, very lean business and stay at where you are and pocket a load of money. But normally a lot of the time when you earn a bit more, you tend to spend a bit more on leveling up however you want to live in some way, shape or form.
It's not even about living, by the way. Like I went from storage in my shed to 2 containers, right? Like that in terms of the business, that's an extra expense, right? And then maybe you buy a brand new laptop or like these sorts of things. So even in just the business side of things, sometimes you like, because you could have not spent as much as you did on your laptop and just bought a £250 laptop, right? And just gone, this will do. It does the business. The other one was bollocks that needed to be replaced, but maybe you spent 250 quid and not however much you did, right? Like, so I think there's that element to it as well, because I think I'm quite frivolous sometimes with the upgrades, right? Like I bought an extra computer just so that 2 people could snipe at the same time. I bought a £2.5 grand Mac because I didn't like my £600 laptop that I upgraded to initially. So like, did I need to do any of that? No. Would I have more money if I didn't? Yes. So I think sometimes it's not even about the actual lifestyle from a personal perspective. Sometimes it's about your flashiness with inside of the business and going, oh, like people that go into warehouses, but when they could just be in a 20-foot container because they want to make it flashier and not, you know what I mean?
So that I feel like is a lot more. I feel like I can justify a lot of those costs sometimes, right?
And that's the problem, though, right? If you want to go to the next level and you need to like save cash,
you're gonna do that by like skimping out on stuff. Like those one-off purchases are not going to be the difference between you saving all your money all the way up. I mean, maybe depends. Again, it depends what level of income you're getting. But as you scale up, like those one-off purchases are not going to be the difference. And like even if you spend $2,000 or whatever, if you're getting a decent amount of cash flow in, then realistic, like the things that will make the difference in that said is like in your point is having another person come on board, or again spending your money in a different way, or trying to push. Like for example, if you sit and you earn a good amount of money and you say you do like 20 to 30 listings a day, right? And you're doing it kind of solo, you can pile cash quite quickly. And that will lead you to a pretty good position to be in. Again, but I feel like a lot of time what you do, and even what I do, right, is like when I had my first good year, and it wasn't even that good, but like suddenly it felt like it was good, especially before I did the numbers, it felt good. I'm suddenly, I'm more comfortable now than I was before. And I think that's a really stupid mentality. And obviously, like I've managed to save up a decent bit, but you have to be patient and like give yourself your future self the opportunity to make bigger plays and play harder and be involved in something you can't now. But again, it just seems so daunting. Like
this is something I think I struggled with when I went full time on nothing, so I had to just get it done or whatever. But when I first started, it was like the first hurdle was to get Tasha out of work, and then obviously both of us do that. But then when we were in a really solid place, I was like, oh, do you know what would be really good? Make our life a little bit easier. Employ my brother to come and obviously some situations arise where it made it really, but actually it's made it more difficult because although I can rinse and repeat the same process I have been doing, if I wanted to stop, work on the business, not in it, as everyone says, like you're doing currently, it makes it infinitely more difficult right now for me to do that. Because if I go, right, I'm not going to do any pictures, I'm going to focus on a connection where the source, like the source comes from, right? Then my brother doesn't have any drafts to do and any listings to do. So I'm paying him them for the sake of paying him for doing nothing, right? So like the whole thing just stops, and it makes it way more difficult to level up again. And that's something that I've mentally been going through recently, is that I feel like I want to stop and reassess and realign, but I don't feel like I can do it right now.
This goes back to being caught up in like the cogs, right? But
yeah,
I think you can do that. Like
there's probably a way of me doing it. I just need to work it out, right?
I mean, realistically, you should have time to kind of do it. And again, obviously, obviously you didn't track your numbers the other day in terms of how long you work for, but there should be time to allot for that and make it work. But I completely understand what you mean. Like every person you get on board, every extra responsibility means that you're not as agile as you were before. And this is why the big companies like eBay don't move fast.
Everything's a snail's pace.
This is why Vinted is far more agile than eBay for the most part in making changes and stuff, because they probably run a much leaner machine. Probably again with like 5 staff members that are never going to talk to you. But eBay is a massive machine and it needs to go through a million different processes to be able to readjust and change what they're doing. Okay. Can you get all employees to be able to do everything? Pictures, listings, post and put away. So we've discussed this probably at length in the group and the different styles of.
So I think this is more directed at me in terms of like getting James to do some extra stuff and then getting Tasha to do the other stuff, and then I focus on the other things maybe. But so that is feasible to some degree. but Tasha does a lot of the home stuff as well, right? So her job at the moment is to do postage and sourcing. Obviously, she snipes with me and stuff like that. So that's and that takes up a lot of time. But then there's obviously taking and picking up my son to the bus stop and all this sort of stuff. And then there's like so she does a lot of the more the homey stuff as well. So if I turn around to her and said, right, your sole focus is to get up in the morning, do all the postage, it would essentially be doing the thing that I have outsourced everything. Like I could do what I like. My entire business could be run by me, but I just wouldn't have any time to do anything else. Like I wouldn't have any personal time. I would be like struggling the way that I do it currently. So possibly could be, but it would be a very stressful for her. It would be a very stressful time for the next foreseeable future. And obviously, I've got a project that I'm working on outside of everything. Then we've got the group, and then we've got like the eBay stuff and the Vinted stuff and all this sort of thing. So time management was one of the reasons why I felt like I couldn't do it, which is why I built my rota or my calendar and stuff like that. And I've struggled to keep on with that, but I think that's where it gets difficult. And it's absolutely feasible because I know people that are doing 40 a day on their own. But obviously I'm trying to do it in a different way. And maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm doing it right. Who knows? But I'll figure it out eventually. I feel like I'm pretty good at making decisions that mess up what I'm doing and then realize, no, but like we talked about it in the boot camp, right? Like I've gone up, figured out what was broken, came back down. I'm not scared to go back down. I'm not scared to reverse decisions. And I think we spoke about it the other day in the group actually, which is that none of these decisions are irreversible. If I go up to 50, it doesn't mean I've then got to be at 50 every day for the rest of my life. I can come back down to 10 if I want to. So I do a lot of scaling, coming back, and just trying to work it out. So I'm not opposed to binning everybody off and just doing it on my own. Like if that's the way it works, like, do you know what I mean? If that's the way it's got to be sometimes, like that's got to. So I'm not afraid to change, but at this moment in time, I'm just trying to work it out how I can do it. And I think Simon is right. I think I've spoken to Tasha briefly before about doing it, and she was a little skeptical because obviously it's a lot of work on top of everything else that she does. And she's an incredible woman that does a lot for me. So yeah, I wouldn't want to try and push her too much further, but I get the theory on it anyway.
I mean, okay, the other issue with the one who James, who does the listings, right? He is not, it's like having a remote employee. It's not like this. So, for example, if you had an employee that came in and did photographs, you could probably get them to do all sorts of things, right? If they came to your unit, they could do the postage, they could do this, they could do that. But I think that the very strong point was made for that sort of aspect and being able to go away. And even if it means like, scaling back a little bit, you've got someone who covers all your bases if you need to. It is really beneficial. But if you've got like a remote employee who can't, basically couldn't cover the rest of the business, then it's not as helpful or flexible as you would want it to be. And then obviously the Tash, which he abuses already, so we don't need to push her to do any more.
So she's already doing so much compared to what, like, yeah, she's just the one that keeps it going, to be honest with you. But I've spoken to James, like, and there's some things that I'm working on that will help improve it. But at the moment, he's still not up to the 20 listings in 2 hours, which is what he needs to be. So at the moment, it's probably taking him twice as long. And some of that might be down to over analyzing the pricing and stuff like that. And maybe some of it's still like a learning process or whatever. So once we can get him up to speed, and there's some things that might help him do that pretty soon.
How far off is he out of interest?
At the moment, I think to be honest with you, mate, I've thrown some absolute curveballs at him because so the reason why I don't like doing it and the reason why I got him on board is because a lot of it's clothing, and clothing takes a lot of time, etc., right? So I basically initially it was like this, it's taking him 6 hours to do 20, right? Like initially, and it was really tough because if I was sending him something, he didn't know what it was. So he was having to try and Google lens it, right? What style is this? What is this? What is that? Like, all this sort of stuff. And I think it has come down to probably like 3 to 4 hours. So he's made some vast improvements. And the title structure is good. Like, I've got no problem with that. A lot of the time, I would say 85 to 90% of the time, the pricing's good. Sometimes during this change of season, for instance, the pricing's not been what I would do. So there was a Toast Farrell yoke jumper he put at 45, but off previous comps, it probably would have been around the £50 mark because of the time of year. And it's sold for 90 on Vinted because I priced it at 100. So like there's some very small nuances in there that he's been finding difficult. But in general, it's still taking him too long. And he said to me, like, it's taking way longer than it should be. And I've thrown a lot of curveballs because I've been getting depleted in my stock. So I've been having to go to the reserve, and the reserve is a lot of the stuff that people don't want to deal with, like printers. And I've had some chainsaw gear and stuff like that. So I've thrown a few curveballs in there, and that slowed him down a little bit. But in general, he's not that far off. I think again, it's one of those ones that we all do it, right? Like if you work from home and you've got all day to do a task.
So I was going to say this in terms of, I don't know if James is in here, might be. You get him to time himself every day.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, if you want to talk about improving efficiency and stuff like that, obviously you're going to pay him the same either way, no matter, like, at the moment, depending on how long he takes to do the work. So realistically, it's in his benefit to.
And yeah, again, he knows that, and he's trying to do it, like, but he doesn't want the quality in terms of the, like, I'm happy with most stuff. Again, pricing can be slightly different, but again, that's really difficult, especially with the change of season. He knows that he's like, I need to get it done quicker. It's taking too long. So like, and he's trying to work out, like, he started waking up at 7 a.m. and just getting it done straight away. But what he found was actually it's better for him to get up at 7, have a coffee, food, chill out for like an hour and then start, because it was like focusing the brain or whatever. Like, so he's got to work out in his own head, like, what the best. Maybe it's best to wait until 8 o'clock at night. Who knows? Like, you know what I mean? He's just trying to work it out. And obviously, this is a completely different world to what he's used to. So sometimes it does take some time.
Mm. Okay. I mean, it's interesting to see how he's progressed. And it interesting. The reason I ask is because to time himself, or to see where he really gets stuck and then see how it goes from there. Because I'd just be interested as someone who's completely new, like the things he gets stuck on the most now, like a few months in, that is like preventing him from getting to that next stage of speed, if that makes sense. Because I'd love to know that. I think that's just an interesting, like, he's like a little case study.
Yeah. Again, like I say, it's very difficult. It's taken me 2 years and probably, well, maybe about a year and a half. It's taken me about a year and a half, and I'm still nowhere near where I need to be in terms of the standard of which I would want to uphold myself in terms of women's clothing. Like I'm infinitely better than I was, but like realistically, I've still got. I talked to Kaylee about clothing and like women's clothing, and I look like the stupidest person in the world when I'm talking to Kaylee about women's clothing, right? Like I haven't got a clue, but I'm infinitely better from learning. So it is just going to take time. It is processing it all and getting better and better.
I also do think part of that view is not doing your listings. Like we've discussed this before.
Yeah.
The fact that you don't do it, like I say, listings is where you drill probably a lot.
100%, yeah.
The information into your head. Obviously, you can know what to buy and stuff like that and have a general idea. But in terms of like when you're talking about the subject and like know what you're looking at, that comes from doing listings. And because Tash did your listings to start with, and then obviously James is doing your listings, it probably actually is quite disconnected in terms of what you actually like, what you know about buying the clothes and what you actually know about the clothes when it comes to like all the words and stuff.
I've said this before, because keywords, like they baffle me a lot of the time. And I was talking to Harry one day, and he was talking about paper bags and balloon legs, and I was like, bruh, what in the, like, I know this is a wide leg, and like I don't know the difference between a wide leg and a barrel leg and all this sort of stuff, because I don't put the time in to learn the clothing that way. I just know, I see somebody say this style's good, I research that style, I go, right, these brands do well in this style. And then I forget about the style. And then visually, when I see it, I go, oh, yeah, that was one of the ones that I like picking up. And then that's kind of the way that I do think. I said this to you before, right? Like if I'm in a charity shop and I'm sourcing, I don't go, oh, this is a balloon leg, wide leg, fucking, this is a big size. I go, this is a good brand. This is a good style. But the conversation in my head is done in 10 seconds. Is there any flaws? Is it a good size? Is it a good brand? Does it look visually pleasing to what I'm used to picking up? Yes. Done. That's it. I'm not going, oh, this is tapered at the bottom. Maybe I don't want tapered with this brand. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I'm a vibes guy, and it's done me well so far. But maybe,
but I wouldn't even say it's a vibes thing. Like again, you can. It's just a different conversation because when you go to list it, you have a trail of thought in your head that works like, okay, this is when you look at the item and you have to put a title to it, you're like, oh, this is a do. But you still, it's the same thing. You just don't know the words, or you don't even have to think about the words because you're still buying based on style. And for example, if someone told if you talk to Harry and he tells you, look, oh, this is balloon leg, you're like, oh yeah, I know that's a good style. It's not like you don't know what's actually going on. It's just in this situation, you're like, oh yeah, I just reckon I'm pattern recognition and looking at the visuals rather than being like, I have to know the exact words, which is interesting in itself. Because
I'm not going to lie to you, a lot of my memory comes from. I think we've done this when we've done research sessions for the men's clothing call, right? I go, oh yeah, I've sold this style before for like 40 quid, right? Like I know that this, a lot of it is me just going, oh yeah, I've sold this. Oh, I've sold this. I know this because I sold this. So that's kind of where my brain goes, as I go, oh, I know I've sold it, so I can pick it up again. And I know I've sold it, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the rinse and repeat that I do, which doesn't, I mean, again, we've done some incredible stuff from where I was to where I am now and where we are or whatever. So it's working, but maybe I need to go into my listings and pay more attention for me to be able to get to the next step that pushes me to the next step.
I mean, yeah, but you don't because you've outsourced that job. I mean, obviously, if it comes back, it'd be useful. If you do come back around to doing it, if you want to, so for example, if you want to go up in listings and you've got an easy way, a better way to source, and then realistically, the problem is you need to list more. Then realistically, you might need to get on the list as well. So probably beneficial to yourself generally doing that anyway. But you can your job can just be to do that. There's technical teams, and then there's the person who just you just got a separate job. I don't even know what the other person is, but you got the person who deals with all the technicalities, and the person who generally how it works, and this is what they need to do for the business. So I think it'd be beneficial for sure, and especially it would help you out maybe but again, you could go off just visually by learning the styles and listening to what's being said. And yeah, you could take in the keywords, but you can just, as long as you're taking in what is good, then I don't even think you need the other part for what you do anyway. But I do think it would be probably beneficial long run, generally speaking.
For sure. It's definitely an interesting one.
I want to go to Clips. Asked a banger question, to be fair.
Go on.
Do you think your business is currently on track of where you think it should or want it to be at this current stage of the business, or do you think you should be further ahead in the business? Is what I'm guessing he's trying to say.
Do you want to go first? Because
mine's kind of tough because I didn't have a track. I didn't a lot of people set their goals and oh, I want to be here by this and this by this. And I didn't have one of those. I didn't have an idea of exactly what I wanted. But the funny thing is, I now, in reverse order, I'm like, hey, I've sat around for too long. Right? But in terms of it being where I want it to be, I think to get it from the ground to being decently profitable in 2 years and still growing is a very good place to be for a new business, generally speaking. Could I have pushed it harder and be in a much bigger place? Yes. Do I expect it to be there? No, because I also know myself in terms of how it was going to go. But I think it's super hard to say because I think if you're looking at a business journey, right, it's not necessarily this linear kind of straight up path. You'll go up really fast and then you'll plateau and then you'll go up and then you might go back down a little bit and then you go up again and then you plateau and then I think to say you don't know what, you could go from a small a decent small to medium business or a medium to large business, and in a year explode, right? So I don't know. Am I where I wanted to be?
I've got an opinion on your business and this as well.
I'm sure you do.
Which is I actually think you're exactly where you wanted to be.
Interesting.
And the only reason I say that is because at any point you could have gone up. Like I know you say like, oh, you know, the process is here and the process is there, and maybe I couldn't get here and there and blah blah blah. But ultimately, if you wanted to, you could have gone up. Like there's no reason you could have doubled down. You could have started sniping on Vinted at the times where you needed to, like in terms of getting the extra stock when you weren't doing the charity shop stuff. Like if you wanted to go up, you would have done, and you could have done. But actually, you're exactly where you wanted to be, which is listing 10 a day, selling 10 a day, and it's a great place. And sometimes there's a lack of urgency when things are going well. Like we all say this all the time, right? Like if things are going badly, I might remove a coupon and add more percentage promoted, or if it's going really well, I'm like, oh, maybe I could save a little. But ultimately, if it's going well a lot of the time, what we do is nothing. We just go, it's going well, don't want to touch it, don't want to break it, don't want to do anything else. But when it's not going well, we try to change a lot of things. And sometimes in my head, for you, you're at this point where you're listing 10, you're selling 10, your day, you enjoy your day, like in terms of like how much time you've got to do everything. You're not running around like a blue ass fly trying to get it all done a lot of the time. And sometimes I think to myself, you're exactly where you want to be, because if you weren't where you want to be, you would do more. And that's in my head, that's how I view it a little bit.
I do feel like that's different though, to like, for example, you can be happy with where you're at, but also if you, for say you came into the business and you're like, I want to make, you know, 500 grand in the next 3 years. But realistically, you get to a point where you're happy. It depends because your track will adjust. Like again, my problem with this question is I didn't have like a set goal for what I wanted to do. If anything, it worked kind of backwards, where I'm like, okay, this is how much I want to do in the day. This is what it works at the moment. And that will therefore generate an outcome, like of however much my business is doing. And for example, now, to be fair, now actually I'm probably in a much different position. I'm like, hey, okay, I need my business to blow up. Well, in my head, I'm planning for it to blow up in the next like year.
Yeah.
Like, and if this, like, I'm setting all this stuff up, and if that therefore doesn't happen, then I'll probably actually be like, that's not great. But I'm still just going to do the things that I think are the right decisions, like day to day, and do the things. I don't know what that outcome will end up looking like. Like I don't have a number in mind, or a certain amount of revenue or profit or take home or whatever. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, if I do this, this is what I'm going to be doing daily, and this is what I have to have set up, and that will have a new outcome. It will be a different business, and it'll be different to where it is now. And I'm just got to do the things I think are right daily to have that other outcome. But yeah, for me, this is you kind of asked for me anyway. You asked a futile question to me because I never think like this. I would say the only thing I would say is that I am happy with where it's at, because I think I started this as a hobby, right? And then I got to it being something that is sustainable, and, you know, having its own unit and all this stuff, and putting money in my pocket, and it's allowed me to like contribute a lot more, and do things and give more money where it hadn't been. So I'm very happy about that. But it is a business, if that makes sense. Like and it is like, to me, it's always on track, because like you said, if I wanted to change it, I could. So that there's nothing that I'm not trying to run a track that's failing me. Like right now, I'm just like, hey, if I'm doing what I want to do, and that's actually a very good point. And if I want to do more, I can. I don't think it will not do what I want it to do. I don't feel like my business is not in my control. I feel like if I want it to produce more money and I want it to go up, I can do that, which is quite interesting. Over to you.
Right. In my head, I will always be unhappy with where I'm at. So this is a psychological thing that I think I struggle with in general. But in my head, I've hit every goal. So when I first started, the goal was we were part-time. My goal was 50K. We hit that. We got to 60, I believe. Then the next goal was 100, and we got to 112 or 113, I think it was. And then the goal for this year was 200, and this year is going to be the first year I don't hit it, I believe. But we are way in the right. We're probably on target to do maybe 180, 170 to 180 maybe. Obviously I've got to look at the figures a little bit more just to double check, but we're on target to considerably increase our revenue from last year, right? And everybody, it's well documented, my 10 to 12 year plan or whatever, right? Like what I want to do and what I end up doing or whatever. So right now I'm happy in terms of the progress that we've made. I feel like we've done an incredible job with what we've done in such a short period of time. But the difficulty is always comparing yourself to somebody else who's been doing it for a similar amount of time, and then looking at them in a way of going, oh, well, actually, I should be doing more, or I could be doing better and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think I'm happy with where we are. But with the underline that I don't think I am, because I want it to be doing better all of the time. And I'm a very impatient person, which is one of the reasons why me and Benji are so different, because he's happy to go 10 a day. Everything's smooth. It's working fine. But literally 2 days after hitting 10 sales a day in Benji's head, I'd be going, right, let's go up to 15. And that's kind of the way that I've grown what we're doing, is that the constant need to do better and more. And obviously that shot me in the foot a few times in the past, and then I've come back down and gone back up and whatnot. So yeah, I ultimately, we haven't hit the 200K. So there's an argument to say that I'm not where I should be or where I think I should be, but I think we're very much on the right trajectory, and that's pretty, and it's infinitely better than anywhere I've been in my life prior to eBay and what I've been doing. So ultimately, I cannot complain.
I think it's an interesting thing. Again, in the few books we've read recently for book club, right? An interesting thing here is like, what if you do feel like you should be further along? What makes you feel like you should be further along? Because is it, so you just said there, is it you're comparing yourself to other people who've been in the business the same amount of time, and you're like, oh, I should be doing better? Or is it genuinely like your personal, like, an interesting one here? There's two different dynamics, right? There's one, hey, I don't feel like I've worked hard enough and my business is not where I'm at because I haven't worked hard enough. But then that opposite dynamic to that is actually a more interesting one, where it's like, hey, I feel like I'm working hard and I'm not getting what I want out of it. And this is kind of actually what Rebecca came to it in.
Yes.
But
by the way, that is exactly how I feel, because we've got, me and Tasha, we both put in very similar effort in terms of time and what we're doing. And then obviously James, and you think to yourself, like, how many hours are being put into this business, and it's not performing the way that I think it should be for the amount of hours and effort that we're putting in. Now, that doesn't mean that we're putting the amount of effort and time into the right things, and maybe we should be channeling it in different areas or whatever. But ultimately, at this moment in time, if you were to ask me, am I happy with the time I'm putting in versus what's coming out? No is the answer to that. And it's only a very minute, like it literally just needs to be 3 sales a day, maybe 4 sales a day. And we're already, because of the 30, like the £30 sale, 30 to £35 average sale price, those 3 or 4 sales a day makes such a big difference on a monthly basis in terms of finances, that mean it's way more acceptable for the amount of time that we're putting in, right?
That's the beauty of this, to be fair. Like, you change.
It feels so attainable. That's the thing, right? So right now, I'm listing 20 and I'm selling 14 on average. But the moment that 14 turns to 18, then I'm going to be so like it, and it seems so vain. And what's the word for it? Like, it seems so like, oh, I don't know what the word is for it, but like, I'd be happy just because I'm getting more money. I don't know what the word is for it because I can't think. But ultimately, it seems so like futile that an extra $3,000 a month is going to be such a big difference to my life. But ultimately, it just takes you out of.
$3,000 a month is a big difference to pretty much everyone's lives.
Yeah, I sometimes I think to myself, like, it's so pathetic to think like that in terms of the money side of like, oh, if I just had an extra bit of money, I'd be much happier. But ultimately, money doesn't buy happiness, but what it does buy is like not a comfortability, right? Like, if I don't, at this moment in time, I still budget personal money and try not to spend too much and do this and that because I don't pay myself enough, right? But that extra bit of money means that I can lax a little bit and go, oh, I don't need to worry too much about the money. Whereas, right now I still think about it loads.
Money deals with deals with a lot. Like having extra money is always going to be well, up to a point anyway. When you just have too much money, that doesn't really matter.
I don't need like loads. I just need to be comfortable enough to not worry about it.
Yeah, obviously money helps deal with a lot of problems and removes a lot of struggle a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
But it's just an interesting question, right? And I feel like the one thing you don't want to do, which is what you just said, actually, is compare your journey to. I mean, you can, because it can actually help you get some insight as to whether or not you are doing something in the right way, right?
Yeah.
So you said it there, but like if someone is doing the same thing you're doing and they're in a much better position than you, like you go, why is that? And obviously you can get bitter or spiteful about it, which is not helpful at all. But if you can look at your business and kind of go, okay, they're doing this and I'm doing this, but so what's the difference? And you can try and problem solve a bit, then you're in a much better position. And you might be able to figure some stuff out. But if you're just sitting there being like probably begrudging that someone is doing better than you, or it's really getting to you that you're looking at other people doing better than you. Again, everyone's just on a different time.
So this is something actually that Luke and James mentioned in their podcast last week, which was talking about people that post on Instagram and stuff, and like you see a big title, a big target or something like that. And my answer to them was essentially, when I see somebody put up a 90-day total or a figure in some kind of what they've done, I instantly go to, I know how hard I work, right? I know how hard I work. So to see somebody do that, they have got to have worked incredibly hard to get, do you know what I mean? So I don't look at it as like fucking he's showing off. I look at it and go, shit, they are grinding it and making this work. And maybe they're grinding in a way that's smarter than us, right? Like maybe they're sourcing in a slightly different way. Maybe they're packaging in a slightly different way. Maybe they've got more employees, whatever it is. None of that matters, because ultimately they're just doing it. They're doing exactly what you're doing, and they're doing it well. And I think sometimes we forget. I know when I first started, I would look at people's 90-day and go, fuck yeah, now what the fuck am I doing wrong? But actually they were further down the road than me, and they were working harder than me at the time. So like
you can go in ebbs and flows, right? As well, like you said, you can solve something early on that will help you get a big boost, and then you might get stuck at a different point, and then someone else, you'll come along somewhere else, and maybe you overtake them at some point, and then you're like I remember getting like you're on this note that when I first looked at YouTubers, I was so excited, man, because I was doing this and I was like, I didn't know what was capable. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how much you could earn, realistically speaking. And I was just doing it. And I was seeing someone else, oh, this is good. It's going right. And I was also in, I think, ClickQuite's WhatsApp Discord channel at the time. And I was talking to some guys in there who were all kind of starting around the same. And some of them were doing like a couple of thousand. I was like, whoa, that's fucking crazy. And then I saw some of the YouTubers, and I'm like, oh, they're doing like 26 over 20 grand 90-day. I'm like, that's incredible. I'm like, oh, this and that gets me like, oh, there's capability here. And then now you look at some of the people that I've seen that have like tens of thousands, and I'm like, whoa, there's real, like at each stage, if there's someone bigger than you, it means that there's like someone doing it. And I think Andrew said this in the group, it's like, if someone else is doing it, that means I can do it, right? Like that means if someone else is achieving something like that, then that means I can do it, and it's possible. And I think that in itself is very exciting. But I do like off the back of that though, again, that like comparison of they're further ahead is it can be tough, right? Like realistically speaking, but again, what was this? Now that I read books, I feel like that guy that quotes books all the time. Like I don't even read them. I listen to audiobooks. I feel like a scam. But I feel like I was actually thinking this when I was listening to the book we're doing at the moment on the way driving, and I was like, hey, I love books, because although I don't like reading or taking the time to it, I love the idea of people giving me thoughts and like subjects to think about. And this is, I'm kind of going off on the taper here, but yeah, it really I really appreciate the thought process, and even if it just brings your attention to something that you've like not really thought about properly or whatever. But I love having that attention be to one thought line of thinking, and then you can think around it. But anyway, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? I've just distracted myself and I've forgotten. It was from a book a while ago, or like 2 books ago. What was I saying? Someone help me.
E-Myth Revisited. We had.
No, but what was I just saying before I started going about how much I love books?
You've literally baffled me. You've literally just baffled me into. I don't know what's going on.
What did you comparing yourself to people? Oh no, this is tragic. I don't know. I'm going to read out other stuff instead. Not 9. In terms of washing, I'm just going to go over some stuff now. In terms of washing wools, drying them is not the move. And if you're going to dry them, you dry them on low heat very briefly and kind of let them dry out after that. But you can wash them, and some of them need a wash. So, for example, I found this out the other day personally because I was wearing a merino wool quarter zip that I bought and I'd never washed it before. I went out, it rained on me. It stinks. It absolutely stinks. I was out about, it rained. I was like, this is disgusting. And I was like, is this normal? Like, what's wrong with my jumper? And I look it up and they're like, oh yeah, like wools and stuff like that, once they get wet, can put out a really awful smell and they need to be washed a few times to, get through it. So you can wash them. You got to, a lot of machines will have settings for it and stuff like that.
Water or delicate washes or whatever it is, isn't it? You can do them on those usually.
Drying, however, not the move.
If you're buying to resell, and a lot of like wool stuff has like spot stains on it or whatever, the actual best thing to do in that scenario is to get your normal cleaner, like your pink stuff spray or whatever, clean it, and then just run that one section of fabric through so you pull it all out like that, so that just that little section of fabric has got like the mark on it, and you clean it all off and then just run that little section under the tap rather than washing the entire garment. Just spot clean it, make sure that that's the only bit getting wet, and then dry accordingly from there. But you don't want to. I don't try too much to shrink jumpers. I try to stay well away from that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but
away.
Andy, yes, I did do a podcast with Tech a while ago now. Shelley coming in. Well, actually, note 9. Money does buy happiness. Being poor doesn't make people happy. Do you be genuine?
Money doesn't make people happy either. I think you can be happy in both regards, and I think you can be unhappy in both regards as well. Like, happiness doesn't come from anything other than yourself.
You can find some of the happiest poor people in the world, right? Like, obviously, struggles are not. This is another thing that's come up, like from books, is what makes you happy a lot of the time is not like the end result, but as a human, like it's like solving problems and kind of enjoying that part of things. But you could genuinely you go to some places in the world and they're poor and they've got nothing and they are the happiest people ever. They've got like their communities, they've got their friends and family around them. They might be struggling to do some basic things, but they are genuinely way happier than 90% of the people in like this middle upper class, or even like a sector of people who just seem to be depressed a lot of the time, even though they're in a much better financial situation, and all sorts of things. Like, it really, I do not think they correlate in the slightest. Yes, I think there's less struggles. And yes, those struggles can be overwhelming and make you feel a certain way, but they do not correlate at all. Like, I really, like, you can be the happiest person doing a minimum wage job and struggling than someone who's rich and like just hates their life. Like,
just as a side note, by the way, my previous job as a manager, I was doing 60 hours a week, getting paid. I used to get paid about £700 a month more than I pay myself currently. And I would argue that I'm infinitely more happier about what I'm doing now than what I was doing then. So if that was the case, then I should be more miserable now because I'm making less money. But actually, I'm working probably close to 100 hours a week and getting severely less money. And I don't think I've been in a better place in terms of like work and what I'm doing. So I don't think it correlates too much, to be honest.
I genuinely think it doesn't at all. Like I will forever say this and stand by this, that happy, like that I'm not like dismissing anyone's struggle, and obviously you can say I come from a place of privilege, but I think happiness is truly like your mind state and kind of how you perceive your life around you, and an internal thing. And yes, again, money will present you more opportunities to do things that might make you happy, and avoid things that might make you feel bad. But I think it's all a personal thing a lot of the time, and you can find happiness genuinely anywhere.
I think it's one of those ones where if you go to like some of the poorest places, right, and you like, I don't know, I've seen YouTube videos before where they go to like the poorest places and they show people like fidget spinners and stuff like that, and you see the joy on their face just from a fidget spinner. But just because you've got 10 grand in the bank, like, you don't find a fidget spinner entertaining, but or like, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make any difference. And ultimately I think if you're on the poorer side, and then I think you appreciate stuff more. I think in general, most people that are born into wealth, they don't appreciate what they've got. They don't see the struggle. And actually, a lot of the time, they look down on the people that are in the poorer situation, going, "Oh, well, you could just be where I am," not giving anybody the time of day. So I actually don't think I much prefer the fact that I was brought up in a poorer background, and I'm trying to work my way in, because I feel like that's the way that you gain the most from life, is starting from a blank canvas and then really putting it on yourself and making sure that you're the reason why you're successful and stuff.
And people that, again, there's like the book they could look at, but I don't want to keep quoting the book, but yeah, I really think it's a super person thing.
Yeah.
Again, like people often like even Chris saying it earlier, people often think getting to the next level of money is gonna solve their problems or make them happier, and it doesn't. You're the same person you were at each point. But again, I feel like, again, I don't want to dismiss anyone who genuinely struggles, and that is always sucks. Like suffering sucks. But yeah, it will never solve all your problems, in my opinion, anyway.
And in terms of Shelby's comment, like I say this all the time. Like I in my head, so my quote from like 3 years ago when I first started this was, "I'm just out here to prove my previous self wrong," because I had a lot of self doubt and a lot of hatred towards the world, in terms of so this is coming back to this. Like I thought that everybody, like the world, was out against me. But when you actually fundamentally look at it and go, am I doing enough? Is my lifestyle at the point that is going to change anything? And the answer was no. And then when I actually changed what I was doing and worked towards something that I felt like was good, your life starts to change in a positive way. And so my mantra is always compare myself to that, like myself, because in my head, I just want to prove my previous self wrong as much as I possibly can, because I was ignorant, I was an idiot, and I didn't think that these things that were possible. And then now I'm just constantly going against myself and comparing against myself to try and prove myself wrong, if that makes sense.
And I think this is a big thing, right? Like, like I said earlier, your perspective on it should be a personal one. Like it's personally, how do you feel like you're doing? And the only person who really knows how well you're doing is yourself. Like, again, you're going to be the person that knows if you're putting in effort. You're going to be the person that knows if the results match your output and stuff like that. But even still, like, it's like Shelly said, it's very easy to compare yourself to people that are doing really well. Like, you always look up and go, wow, this person's doing so well. But you're like, putting perspective on where you're at, and compared to where you were, or compared to how the average person does, is a big deal. And there's like, there's all sorts of stats about businesses failing, or
the first 2 years, 6% of businesses are like succeed or last or something like that. It's such a small percentage.
Yeah, it's massive. Like, there's a big difference in terms from it. That's why I said I'm super happy that like I've got to the place where it is a business and it is producing money and I can scale it in the way I want to, because like there's a good chance that people you sit there and go round and round in circles for ages and don't really achieve anything. So I think comparing yourself to the average and kind of really taking note of how you're performing, but instead of comparing yourself to the 1% straight away, is going to put you in a much better understanding of your position in things and in the hierarchy. And this reminds me of like gaming, right? So there's a lot of people that sit at the lower ranks in terms of things, and even the average rank where the most people are, there's loads of people that sit there, loads of people, and then you look at the top ranks, and there's tiny. The percentage of players that actually play at that rank is tiny compared to the big overall player base, and that's how almost everything works. Like if you're so for example in in gaming, it's like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the platinum, you're like in the top 50 or 60% of players. And then if you just move up to diamond, suddenly you're in like the top 20%. And it all shrinks down, then you get to the next level. So it's, again, you might not be at the top, but you're probably in a better position than you think you are.
There was two stats I saw recently, which is 8 people in the world. So there's 8 people in the world that hold the same wealth as 4 billion people. And there's also another one, which is that if you are earning more than globally, so I think in America it's like 32,000, but globally you are in the top 1 percentile of people in terms of earning. If you earn more than 55 grand a year, you're in the top 1% of the whole world. Apparently, of the world, yeah. If it's America, you only have to be 32 grand a year.
No,
so
1%, no way.
No, I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, we can double check. We can fact check, but
I'm fact checking if that's wrong.
Well, I heard it the other day anyway. But yeah, like, so what? Especially this was the best one that I heard actually, which is, if I think I might have said it before, I don't know, but if you were to find £20 down the back of your couch, right, and that level of excitement based on your earnings, so like the average earning in this year is about 30 grand, right? So if you were to find £20 down the back of your couch, right, that level of excitement based on how much you earn, Elon Musk would have to find £36 million behind his couch before you give him the same level of excitement based on the percentage of how much he earned.
Yeah.
So,
again, this
crazy.
Like the big players are the big players, and it's the same in reselling, right? Like you've got the people who are Ubers, like probably again doing it at the top. And this is what this call was kind of about, is that like the jump to the next level can be massive. But like, again, those levels are those levels are all distinct, like harder to get to. And the reason that they're harder to get to for a reason. Like there is very few people playing up there compared to us playing down here. And even us playing down here, we're probably in a bit, like Shelly said, a better position than a lot of other people. But those people up there, are few and far between, and it takes a lot of effort to get there. So, gotta crack on. Anyway, I overran a bit, but I think that I'm not even sure what this is about in the end.
We went from one bit to the next to the other, and it's all been all over the place. So, all we know is that Andrew is in the top 1%.
Of course. Apparently there's a new thing on YouTube called you can hype a video, but you need 500 subscribers to do it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe.
Yes, please.
We will be here yapping. We get pretty much every week. And if you enjoy yapping, then you're in the right place. And we'll see you all next week to yap some more.
Also, if you want to hear us yap some more and do it in a better way, Reseller group.
Exactly. Lovely. Bye.
Have fun.